Hey guys, welcome back. Along with the new Sister Wives segment I just watched, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around what I saw. Christine Brown appeared after months of being entirely off camera, and in all honesty, this appearance was different. Not stage different, not fake different, just like a moment when she didn't even attempt to conceal how she actually feels. And then suddenly, Mykelti begins talking. Not a little aside remark either, straight up storytelling mode. It's the sort of oops, did I just say that on television moment that producers adore, and families likely despise. I swear the Brown family can't go 3 episodes without spilling something dirty. But this one wasn't all about drama, it was exposed. It was that tense where you understand the smile is artificial, the voice is too courteous, and everybody is putting it on like they're okay when they are absolutely not. So, let's get down what went down, because if you missed this episode, you need the play-by-play. Christine's arrival, Mykelti's words, and that strange silence from everyone else all connect in a way that makes you go, oh, there is so much more going on here than they've let us know. Okay, deep breath, let's dive in. So what happened was this. Christine arrives at this family gathering, something small, really casual, but the vibe changes the moment she arrives. She smiled, but you get this awkward rigidity, you know, the I'm fine, you're fine, we're all completely fine type of forced placidity. She wears this pale green sweater, hair loose, just serene. To be honest, she was pretty, like a woman who has finally begun living her life in her own right, and that's most likely what made it even worse for everybody else. The camera cuts to Mykelti, sitting there with this tiny smirk that says, I know something. You can always tell when one of the children is keeping something juicy in reserve. It's that same expression they have when just before a producer is about to pop a harmless question and they unwittingly drop a secret on national television. Anything, Christine is sitting down and talking to some of the family, and you can tell she's making an effort to stay superficial. The kids, the weather, all of that inane chatter. Then, Mykelti says the line. Out of nowhere, she says something like, it's just funny seeing mom like this. People forget how different things used to be. And boom, that's it. The whole room changes. Everybody is silent for a second too long. You can almost hear the producers screaming keep rolling in the background. That one line, how different things used to be, opens the floodgate. Because apparently Mykelti's concept of different is not what Christine is willing to discuss on camera. However, here's the thing. You can't say something like that and not have people expect otherwise. And Mykelti knows that, which makes me wonder maybe she just wanted everyone to be guessing. Anyways, the episode continues, and that's when we receive the beginning of what I'm calling the spicy confession. So after that small different times remark, the editors pull out the move where they zoom in on all the faces. Janelle faking her sip of her drink, Robin wishing she could just vanish, and Christine just smiling through it like a pro. Then, Mykelti begins talking about this story, and initially you think it's innocuous. She's like, I remember when mom used to, and you're waiting for something cute or humorous, but no, she goes right into memory lane, the kind that's half nostalgic and half grief. She says, there were years when mom wasn't even allowed to make her own plans, like we couldn't go anywhere without checking in first. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, so we're going there. This isn't about holidays or schedule. This is control, and you can sense Christine tighten up the moment she hears it. And here's the crazy thing, Mykelti does not rage. She sounds almost regretful, as though she's speaking out loud what her mom really endured years later. She even laughs a little, but it's awkward laughter that conceals discomfort. She reminisces about how Christine would feed 20 people each night, organize birthdays, clean, homeschool, and still manage to smile for camera. And then she adds something that cuts way too deep. I used to think mom loved doing all that, but I think now that she just didn't have a choice. You could have heard a pin drop. That's the sort of line which lingers in your mind, because it isn't said in anger, it's said in realization. The type that only appears when you're older, and at long last, realize what you were missing as a child. Through and through, it reminded me of how many women, not just Christine, live that way for years without even knowing they're surviving, not living. Throughout my childhood, my mother shared that same unobtrusive energy sometimes, always going, always doing, but you could tell there was something weighing beneath the surface. I didn't realize it even then. I think that's why this entire scene struck me. Because seeing Mykelti recall things her mom likely tried to forget, that's raw, and ugly, and far too real for a program that's all about faith and family. So let's break it down, because what Mykelti expressed wasn't just a daughter reminiscing, it was a quiet epiphany about what living under Kody was actually like. When she expresses Christine wasn't allowed to make her own plans, that's not about scheduling, that's about control. That's about being in a home where even mundane decisions, what to make for dinner, whom to see, when to take a break, needed a permission slip from another person. You can see Christine doesn't want this discussion occurring on camera. The smile tightens, her shoulders shift, and she gives Mykelti that "we'll talk later" look moms have perfected over centuries. But here's what's fascinating. Christine doesn't interrupt her. She lets Mykelti keep going. Maybe because it's finally being said out loud, and part of her is relieved someone else is carrying that truth for once. And it makes sense. Back then Christine was the one holding the family together while also being treated like she didn't matter. Remember those early seasons? She was always the fun mom, the one making dinner for everyone while Kody bounced between houses, and somehow she still had to pretend she was grateful for whatever little time or attention she got. What Mykelti's talking about, that mom couldn't make plans, stuff is code for years of walking on eggshells. That's what it sounds like when a woman learns to manage chaos instead of confronting it. And I don't care what anyone says, Christine's leaving wasn't just about being unhappy in a plural marriage. It was about finally realizing that her version of peace didn't exist in that setup. Mykelti's little spicy secret isn't scandal for TV, it's generational healing, and you can see it on her face. She's coming to understand her mother's strength was derived from being stuck and living, not being happy. And perhaps that's why Christine's visit had felt so different this time. She wasn't the same woman who used to apologize for simply existing too loudly. She appeared earthy, free, but also, let's be honest, freedom like that isn't free of some emotional bruising. And I think that's when this story begins to change from gossip to something actual, because Mykelti continues, and the next thing she says totally flips the script of the episode. Oh, wait up. Can we just discuss how crazy this is for 1 sec? Because I swear this family has perfected playing like emotional trauma is just Tuesday night conversation. Like Mykelti lets a truth bomb fall that essentially reveals how her mom was manipulated for years, and everybody just keeps sipping their cocktails like it's no big deal. What? And let's not even talk about Kody. Where's he in all of this? Likely making another speech somewhere on loyalty and commitment, while his family disintegrates in the background in front of a camera crew. It's almost pathetic now, like seeing someone add ornaments to a burning house. You know what gets me angry? Whenever there's something awkward that comes up, the Browns play it off like a miscommunication. No, it's not a miscommunication, it's a pattern. It's decades of acting like everything is okay because the truth would be admitting it was never equal. Christine wasn't permitted to make plans. Yeah, because in that household, plans needed to accommodate Kody's ego. Let's be real. And before someone is all, oh, but that's just how plural marriage is. No, that's not devotion. That's control masquerading as devotion. I get so angry seeing Christine holding it together as her daughter is out here speaking the quiet part loud out loud. Because you can see it in Christine's eyes, that blend of panic and pride. Panic that it's happening on national television. Pride that Mykelti found her voice. Maybe that's the point. Perhaps this family needs to quit hiding behind "we're doing our best" and begin acknowledging that a great deal of what occurred was not acceptable. And in truth, the entire scene brought back memories of how individuals in real life deal with dysfunction. They joke, they smile, they pretend. I came up around that sort of vibe as well. You learn to read the room, keep the peace, laugh things off, but sooner or later it shatters you. So yeah, I understand Christine's response. Undefined. I understand why she just smiled and kept quiet. Undefined because sometimes silence is the only option to exist long enough in order to speak freely afterwards. Okay, so that's where my mind began racing. Because while I was seeing this, a part of me couldn't help but wonder if the producers really had their act together. Think about it, Christine hasn't been on camera in months, okay? Then out of nowhere she appears, looking serene, calm, and they just happen to have Mykelti sitting right next to her. Get real, that's not by chance. That's let's sit the daughter with the loosest filter alongside the mom with the most secret. And then naturally Mykelti accidentally brings up the past. Sure, totally normal. I'm telling you, reality TV might as well just start issuing screenplays at this point. But here's the thing, the reaction we saw from Christine didn't feel rehearsed. That flash of a flicker in her face was genuine. If you've spent years watching her, you can tell the difference between her smile for the camera and her "I'm trying not to cry at the moment" smile. So perhaps the scenario was staged, but the feeling was. That's what makes this so difficult. The producers may construct the trap, but the emotions that emerge out of it are legitimate. And that's sort of the issue with Sister Wives these days. It makes the documentary drama line very blurry. They desire authenticity, but they also require chaos for their ratings. So what do? You sit Christine in a room with the only daughter who still has a direct line to both sides of the family, and you. The one thing that caught me though was how quickly the cameras cut away after Mykelti said that line. You caught a glimpse of Janelle's face, confusion, perhaps guilt, and then boom, scene shift. Timeless. We just got something too real. Now naturally everybody's discussing this online. Was this conversation real? Did the producers force it? Was Mykelti self-aware about what she was doing? Honestly, it's likely something out of all three. Because this is the thing, when individuals have kept secrets for years, occasionally all it takes is a camera and a push to get them to open up. You know, the more that something turned over in my head on that scene, the less it felt like drama and the more it felt like sorrow. Not the showy, tear-jerking kind, the quiet kind that comes years after you've already survived something. Watching Christine sit there keeping her composure while her daughter reopens old wounds, that's not entertainment, that's healing at the moment. And it's difficult to watch, because we all recognize that look of someone making an effort to remain civil while their hearts remind them of every iteration of them that had to remain small in order to maintain the peace. It struck me how much of Christine's life has always been described by other individuals, through Kody's words, through the frustrations of the other wives, through the editing of the show. And here she is at last serene, at last herself, and yet again it's someone else living her life. Maybe that's the irony, maybe Mykelti needed to tell her. Perhaps hearing your own child identify what you endured is the closure you never knew you required. And in truth, that moment, that is not just about the Brown. That is about every individual who has ever left behind something toxic and still bears the wounds. Because to leave isn't to forget. To leave is to learn to live with what you do know now. Christine seemed to be free, yes, but freedom isn't tidy, it's complicated. It's guilt and relief sharing the same body, it's attending a family gathering knowing you'll be nice to people who used to make you cry. And if you've ever done that, if you've ever gone back into a room full of folks who once shattered you and smiled just to show you're alive, then you know precisely what that moment was like. That's why this episode resonated more than it normally does. It wasn't merely gossip, it was all about recognition. A daughter recognizing her mother's suffering for the first time, and a mother being able to see that she no longer has to hide it. So naturally the internet blew up. It wasn't even 5 minutes after the show ended that Reddit, TikTok and YouTube comment sections began lighting up. People had opinions. Some people, at least, were complimenting Mykelti for finally telling the truth, while others insisted she went too far. And you know, both have a valid point. On one side, Mykelti spoke what many viewers have long suspected, that Christine's smiling personality was a facade of exhaustion. But on the other hand, it's her mother's history, it's personal. You can't just drop lines like "Mom wasn't allowed to make plans" and not have it hurt. Some of the fans were praising Mykelti as being brave, claiming she was defending her mom by speaking the truth about what actually happened. Others felt it was betrayal, that she should have respected her mother's privacy rather than making it TV material. Meanwhile, the video had gone viral on TikTok. One fan posted a side-by-side of old footage of Christine from season 3, her laughing while cooking for everyone next to Mykelti's quote. The caption said, "We thought she was happy." It's powerful, honestly. You can't help but notice the difference between what we were being presented with and what could have actually been going on. Even die-hard Sister Wives viewers who typically come to Kody's defense remained silent this time. That silence spoke volumes. And then there were the conspiracy forums, wondering if this was TLC's way of rewriting the family's storyline. Perhaps they're getting Christine set up for a new plotline, a redemption story. Because let's be honest, Christine is now the fan favorite. She went away, she came back, and now she's back in business. You can't stage a comeback like this. But what nobody can help but notice is how intimate it all was. Typically when something dramatic occurs on Sister Wives, it's between wives or with Kody's newest speech regarding respect. But not this time. It was between a daughter and mother, and that's different. It hurts more. And while everyone on social media was breaking down the episode, Christine remained quiet. No Instagram stories, no response story, nothing. Which, let's be real, speaks volumes more than any caption ever could. Christine didn't speak up. No Instagram live, no clapback, no thin quote post regarding truth or forgiveness, nothing. And that's what made it resonate even more. Because when Christine doesn't say anything, that's normally her way of saying something. If you've been following her for a while, you'll know she's not afraid to stand up for herself. She's done it before, specifically when she was breaking up with Kody, but this time, complete silence. Fans picked up on it immediately. Someone even joked in the comment section of her most recent cooking reel, "Blink twice if you're mad at Mykelti." It was amusing, but you could sense that people were actually curious. What made it even more intriguing was the way that Christine behaved in the days following the episode's airing. She put up her usual stuff, smiling, baking, doing her little cooking with Christine skits, but something seemed off. Her energy it wasn't her usual bubbly "I'm living my best life" vibe. It was almost as if she was doing that vibe. Body language analyzers on TikTok, you know, the ones who pick apart every micro expression, began commenting that her smiles didn't reach her eye. And that sounds dramatic, but when you've spent more than a decade watching someone on reality TV, you see the changes. Then came the picture. A fan caught a glimpse of her at a supermarket in Murray, Utah. A few days later, no glamour, no filter, just Christine in a sweatshirt with her hair in a bun. The fan observed she seemed tired but kind. And honestly, that checks out. Because you have to imagine how complicated this is for her, hearing your daughter publicly dissect your private history, while millions of people weigh in. And yet, rather than speaking up for Mykelti, she went silent, which could be the best thing she could ever do. Sometimes silence is all that's left to you, particularly when the internet is already doing the talking for you. But behind the silence, you can't help but wonder what actual conversations within that family group chat are like right now. Because if Mykelti dropped this on reality TV, what's being said off of reality TV? And don't forget, Christine has 6 children. Mykelti's the talkative one, but the others, they've stayed out of the drama for the most part. You have to think they saw this too. And if one member of that family does speak up, it often leads to another following suit. So perhaps Christine's silence isn't weakness. Perhaps it's strategy. Possibly she's waiting to hear what the rest of her kids have to say. Here's where things begin to get complicated. Because we never know what really goes on behind the scenes on Sister Wives. Every fan knows that by now. When the episode with Mykelti's spicy secrets aired, several production details didn't add up. For starters, the lighting and sound were too perfect for what was supposedly a casual conversation. You could practically see the outline of a second camera in the distance. That indicates they filmed that segment from more than one angle, which doesn't occur unless TLC knew what they had on their hands. So immediately it's clear this was not spontaneous, it was staged. And that's when individuals began questioning, did producers push Mykelti to bring this up? There's a trend here. TLC has continually utilized Mykelti and Peyton as sort of truth tellers within the family. They're the ones who will tell what others won't, but that's also what makes them helpful for TV. They shake things up without being technically in the actual plot. Any number of production insiders have reported that the family interviews are shot hours apart, sometimes even separate days. Therefore, when you see Mykelti's reaction to something Christine allegedly said, that may not have occurred in real time. They could have stitched it together and edited. And then there's the timeline issue. The episode makes it seem like this interview happened right after Christine's Utah appearance, but it didn't. Based on Mykelti's hair color and her newborn twins' age in the clip, fans figured out the footage was filmed months earlier. So TLC sat on it, waiting for the perfect time to drop it. Why? Because Christine had recently hosted a major public event with David Woolley, her husband, and the pictures went viral. She looked confident, happy, glowing, like someone who had moved on. And TLC, being TLC, probably wanted to add a little contrast. You know, show her happy now but also remind viewers of the pain she left behind. It's manipulative, but that's how they keep the ratings high. Even the way the episode was edited gave Mykelti's words extra weight. There was this slow zoom in when she said, "Mom never really felt free." They used silence right after, instead of cutting to a talking head. That hesitation makes the line read heavier. Emotional editing 101. And the amusing thing, that sentence likely took her 5 seconds to utter in real life, but TLC stretched it out into a 15-minute roller coaster of emotions. So yes, Mykelti did say it, but TLC molded it. They always do. They take the moments that hurt the most and make a narrative out of them. It's savvy TV, but it's also precisely why the Brown family can't seem to mend. Integer, because whenever they move on, TLC unearths a wound, and if you really thought Christine didn't catch on that, you'd be mistaken. Now here's the bit TLC didn't show, Christine's actual reaction when she heard what Mykelti had said. Because according to a couple of sources close to the family, and genuinely longtime fans who track every social media move, it wasn't as peaceful behind closed doors as it appeared online. According to reports, Christine had no idea about Mykelti's complete statements until the episode came out. She knew her daughter had recorded something for sure, but TLC doesn't always share the final edit with the family before they air it. So picture sitting down to watch what you assume is an ordinary episode, and then listening to your own daughter blithely remind you how you weren't allowed to make plans, or how you cried behind closed doors. Yeah, that stuff. Supposedly Christine was not saying much for a couple of hours afterwards. She didn't even respond to anyone's text that evening. One of her Utah pals, one who's appeared in a couple of her Instagram stories, said Christine was shocked but not surprised. That's such a precise term, isn't it? Shocked but not surprised. It literally translates to she didn't see it coming from Mykelti, but she's accustomed to being blindsided by what the show does. And the day after, she was said to be sad more than angry. That makes sense too. Christine has always gone in with emotion. She's the kind of person who feels everything, even when she's trying to keep it in. The friend said she baked the morning away, her coping mechanism of choice. She baked cinnamon rolls and zucchini bread for David and the children, and that's so Christine. Rather than go off on the internet, she does what she does best. She processes in the kitchen. It appears that David was frustrated but supportive. He said to her, "You can't control what they say anymore. They'll twist it however they need to." And the show's never been in Christine's control. It never was, not even when she was one of the big wives. Next couple of days, Christine kept it low-key. No interviews, no social media drama, just quiet. Insiders report that she did connect with Mykelti on a private level. Now no one actually knows what was said, and that's probably for the best. But the general word is that it was an emotional conversation. Christine wasn't screaming, she wasn't hanging up on Mykelti, she just needed her to know how intimate that was, how much it stung to hear it like that. And Mykelti, in all fairness, did apologize. Sort of. She allegedly explained to her mom that she didn't mean it to sound negative, that she was just trying to be truthful. Honesty on television, however, never is that easy. Christine's been around long enough to know that honesty, when a producer edits it, becomes content. So yeah, all is well on the surface now. They've posted photos together since then. According to one source, something shifted between them. It's not shattered, but it's bruised. And if you've ever had a falling out with family, you know those bruises take a long time to heal. If you've seen Christine over the past few years, you can tell she's working on something more substantial than just moving on. She's rebuilding her brand, and truthfully she's doing it really smartly. After that episode when everyone was looking at her to see how she'd react, she didn't go dark for long. She shifted gears. In 1 week she released a video featuring her husband David Woolley, a warm, light-hearted day in our life vlog. Not a word about Mykelti, not a whisper about the show, just Christine laughing, cooking and joking with David about not picking up milk on the way home. That wasn't happenstance, that's strategy. See, Christine is skilled at diverting attention without calling out the drama head-on. It's an old influencer trick. Deflect the focus, dictate the tone, remind everyone of the version of you you wish for them to embrace. And fans devoured it. The comments were rife with support. "Christine, you're so happy. You glow, girl. Don't let the haters get you down." That's just the response she was looking for. But behind that carefully managed calm,
Her true friends say she's even more guarded now. She used to be an open book. She'd discuss everything, from her divorce to co-parenting to her love life. But recently she's been more guarded. She's come to understand that vulnerability, while excellent at creating connection, also provides TLC with ammo. A source close to Christine explained, she doesn't want her life sliced up into soundbites anymore. That's why she's placing more emphasis on her cooking segments, her cameos and her own projects. It's her attempt to reclaim control, and it's working. Her audience has increased, brands have begun reaching out once more, and she's branding herself as the strong single mom turned empowered wife, something that fans adore. It's also fairly obvious that she and TLC are drifting apart slowly. She's bound by contract, so she'll do the necessary segments, but there's less of that Christine spilling tea vibe we were accustomed to. She's erecting a boundary between real life and reality TV life, and when you consider it, that's what this entire transformation is about. Public Christine is breezy, positive, self-sufficient. Private Christine is guarded of herself, of her kids, and the serenity she fought so hard for. She doesn't wish to reside in reaction mode any longer. She's done being the ex-wife with a story. She wants to be the woman who moved on and meant it. Although that Mykelti episode did leave an impression, not one you can see on the gram, but it's present, because regardless of how good the rebrand appears, you can't fully shake the drama of a decade of being filmed at your worst tissue-cutting vulnerability. And in the stillness when the cameras are off and the kitchen spotless, Christine likely still sits pondering what story TLC will next create. You'd think after all these years the Browns would be seasoned to drama, but this one landed differently, because when a daughter speaks on national television about her mom, the consequences don't cut out when the cameras stop rolling. According to sources close to the family, it got a little awkward across the sibling group chats after the show aired. Not dramatic, just tense. You know that weird kind of tension where everybody's all like, everything's cool, but you can tell the air changed. That's what it was. Mykelti's siblings, especially Aspen and Osabel, were reportedly not thrilled. They're protective of Christine, always have been. Aspen, the eldest, sort of plays the family diplomat. She stays out of the limelight but jumps in when things get complicated, and rumor has it she respectfully told Mykelti to be more careful about what she posts on camera. It wasn't an argument, but it was an awakening. P-Dun meanwhile took to social media like he always does. Cryptic TikTok videos, ambiguous captions, you name it. He didn't name anyone specifically, but he posted a clip and said, "Sometimes silence is louder than words, sometimes it's also guilt." One was enough to make the internet blaze for another week. Meanwhile, Janelle kept entirely out of it. She's always the quiet eye of the hurricane. She'll let everyone else fight while she just quietly keeps moving. But sources told us that she did call Christine off the record to check in. That's how Janelle works. She won't post about it, but she'll show up behind the scenes. Even Robin's name got dragged into the chaos. Fans started speculating that she was behind TLC pushing Mykelti's storyline, which honestly there's no real proof. But when that theory began circulating, it took off like wildfire. And given Robin's already the least popular figure on the show, that wasn't helping her reputation at all. Kody of course remained silent. No interviews, no remarks, nothing. But one supporter spotted him at a car show in Arizona a week later, and said he looked irritated and closed off. That's Kody in a nutshell, aloof until it impacts his image.
The real sea change, though, was in how Christine's kids began managing themselves online. They've always posted little snippets of their lives, babies, holidays, little updates, but after that episode, the posts decreased. They're catching on to what Christine already knows. Every post becomes a headline, and while the family is trying to mend things privately, TLC is already building up towards the next episode in the promo, using footage of Christine saying, "I just want peace." That's the irony of it all. She claims she wants peace, and they make that a cliffhanger. It's poetic in a maddening sort of way. Every time a member heals, the show reopens the wound. The ripple effect from that one Mykelti interview didn't just create fan backlash. It altered the way the Browns communicate. There is more hesitation now, more seeing what they say, based on the fact that once something's on tape, it's forever. And for a family that spent half its life under a microscope, that's becoming more than ever a weight to bear. When you take a step back and look at all of this, Christine's reserve, Mykelti's candor, TLC's cutting room. It speaks volumes about where Sister Wives is right now. This show began as a narrative about family, faith, and non-traditional love. But 15 years on, it's closer to an exploration of what's left when a family has grown beyond the narrative that brought them to fame. Christine was always the beat of it. She was the one who smiled through the cringe dinners, giggled through the crying, and struggled to make the most of a situation that was never truly equitable. So, to watch her finally free, living in Utah, cooking in her own kitchen, being loved out loud, should be a moment of full circle. And it is, but there's always this shadow lingering behind her, one that she wasn't responsible for. The show won't allow her to exit tidily. Even now, when she's remarried and content, they find ways to connect her to the hurt, via flashbacks, interviews, or in this instance, her own daughter's words. Maybe that's the plan. Christine's narrative isn't required to be tidied up and spick and span. It's real, messy, human. She built a new life, but she can't rewrite the old one, and that's okay, because the truth is, she doesn't need to erase it to move forward. Fans have started to realize that too. When the episode first aired, the talk was all about Mykelti's spicy comment. But after a while the tone shifted. And yet people started looking at Christine's progress, rather than her suffering. The more you look at her now, confident, centered, calm, the more it's obvious she's turned out to be the person she's always wanted to be. Even her children notice. They might not always agree with what you read in the tabloids, but they can't help but see their mom happy for the first time. Maybe that's the reason, deep inside, Christine never snapped or clapped back. Because she hasn't lost anything, she's already won. As for Sister Wives, it's going through a strange phase. The initial concept, one man, multiple wives, one large family, no longer exists. What's left then are individual narratives, broken but still bound by history and pain. And Christine's journey could be the one to encapsulate the entire thing. She evolved from dutiful wife to empowered woman, from supporting player to star, from needing validation to not needing any at all. That's the type of change most reality shows can only hope to document. So when Mykelti dropped those bombs, she didn't only reveal her mom's history, she inadvertently reminded us all why Christine's story is important. Because it's not about drama, it's about survival, about rediscovering your worth after years of being told to shrink. In the end, Christine doesn't need to fight back or explain herself. Her peace is the answer. Her laughter now, the real kind, not the one she faked for the cameras, says everything. So yeah, maybe Mykelti said too much. Undefined, maybe TLC played it up for ratings. Undefined, but Christine, she's already flipped the page, and while the rest of the world is still reliving her history, she's off creating a future that doesn't require a crowd. Because for the first time in a long time, the narrative belongs to her.